Hello and welcome back. New Zealand Prepper here. Wherever you are, if you are watching, that means you're not dead yet, and in these crazy times, that is cause for celebration. So relax, sit back, grab a drink, and enjoy yourself as we are going to go a little down the rabbit hole today. Right, so I am not a financial advisor and you need to do your own research. What's said here is opinion based, and I encourage you to do your own research and corroborate or disprove anything I see as you see fit. What I see coming and happening, what I tell you here, it is designed to get you thinking, intended to make you question what is and where it's coming from. A long time ago, I sat in a room learning the ins and outs of journalism. After being refused an Official Information Act request on the basis what I would write may cause a panic, and being asked to write with a level of vocabulary as if a 6-year-old was my main reader and could easily understand me, as well as learning multiple style guides, one day there was a conflict of ideology between myself and the teacher I could not overcome. It was right as if a 6-year-old right-minded person can understand you. And I asked, what is a right-minded person? What's a right-minded member of society? It was at this point I knew if I pressed forward in the industry, I would become a slave to an agenda not of my own. There is no balance, no objectivity. The media is a propaganda machine bought and sold and traded as easily as a wheel of cheese. I did not continue, nor did I finish my study there. Writing has been a gift of mine for as long as I can remember, and I will produce works to entertain, shock, or inform, but what I say is not intended to incite. I'm not paid for this work. I do this because I believe you need to hear my viewpoint. Maybe it will balance out the media's side of things and provide a balance. Remember, above all, our individual viewpoints are based upon our history and our experiences. They color our perspective. It is okay to disagree, but you should try to understand both points of view as you do, and my viewpoint is not an attack on yours. First, I'm going to lay out what is happening globally in a broad and somewhat generalized sense. Then I'm going to go through how it's happening and why, and if I'm eloquent enough, I will try to weave specific examples from across the globe as we go. So sit tight, listen through to the end, and let me know in the comments if you see what I see and agree with my assertion that it is by design and is in fact a form of mass social engineering. Now, you've already heard of this. They call it many things. They call it the Great Reset, the New World Order, the Green Agenda, transitioning to carbon neutral, a climate crisis, the new normal, Build Back Better, environmental social governance, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. The list goes on. What may not be apparent is that all of these are connected and all are a part of what is really happening. But what is it really? It's neo-colonialism, global debt bondage, divide and conquer politics, social engineering, manufactured consent, and the very, very real and freakishly fast happening global flu control plan that is being enacted. So how is this playing out? Let's look in our own backyard. In just the last few years, we have seen authoritarian policies, mandates for medical treatments, go and stay home lockdowns, and economic policies designed to get your money, bail-in laws being the most forthcoming. We saw cash being discouraged, some places not accepting it as it may have COVID on it. We saw mask wearing become commonplace. We see an attack on farmers, an agenda for forcing you to eat less meat, plant-based everything. Now we're seeing land grabs for natural resources and areas of natural significance being confiscated without reparations. And because this is significant, we will speak about this here. In multiple parts of the country here in New Zealand, and most notably on the west coast of the South Island, Private landowners, even those with as little as 10 hectares, have received a letter telling them they may have significant natural areas on their land and that if they want to do anything with specific areas of their own private property, they would need to get a letter of consent from a local Maori iwi. For viewers in the USA, this would be like your state telling you that the indigenous Indians had to give you permission to put a well on your private property or have cows drink from the river or chop down a native tree for the wood to make room for pasture. But why now? Well, this is part of the plan. It is the divide part of divide and conquer. In the USA, you have a clear racial divide already. They are working on the haves versus the have-nots, the old versus the young, man versus woman, LGBTQ versus non-LGBTQ, religious versus other religious, Republican versus Democrats, everything they can to divide and stop people from uniting against them, because that is the way they will fail. In New Zealand, we didn't have a major divide in terms of race. We were quite united. So how best to sow division? Simple, really. Pit New Zealand Europeans against the Maori, use the treaty to force a green agenda as a guise, but in effect, what is really happening is that they are sowing dissent. If you have to ask the local Maori iwi to use something that you own already and worked hard for, this is going to open up a divide. They are doing it with businesses being forced to use the language, councils having to ask to work their river, farmers being brought up by international organizations and peoples and planted with forests that later could be considered significant natural areas, more so if they plant natives rather than pine, but these areas will never again be used for productive purposes. So why? What is the plan here? Well, here it is from the horse's mouth. This is from the United Nations Agenda's 2030 goals. Goal 1. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. Okay, sure. Noble cause, right? But in effect, to do this, they will just eliminate the poor by war and starvation. Goal 2. End hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Well, sustainable agriculture means reduced livestock everywhere, and food security means we control all of your food and your food supply. So here you go, have some cricket flour. Goal 3. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Healthy lives, huh? I'd like to be healthy. Lofty goal, but unless you have full communism, it's not going to happen. And I don't know about you, but I kind of like my freedom, or what's left of it anyway. Goal 4. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Again, sounds very communist. How would you like to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, huh? Goal 5. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Okay, I don't have a problem with this, but with that said, in the 1960s, a traditional couple had only one partner needing to work to survive. Now that has changed so that both partners need to work just to make ends meet. I wouldn't call that equality, I would call that debt bondage. Right, so by this time you're probably getting the point here. Points 7 through 17 can be summed up by saying the rewilding of the environment, the employment of everybody so there are no unproductive slaves, and everything will be controlled and owned by global governance and tracked fully for everyone everywhere, and of course the lowering of the population to a sustainable level. It's rumoured, and it was on the Georgia Guidestones, that the worldwide sustainable population is 500 million. There is also plausible correlations between population control through eugenics and the seed oils that are in all manufactured food-like products that lower libido and negatively impact fertility in both men and women. Perhaps this explains why we are being pushed towards plant-based foods instead of animal-based. as plant-based not only allows for easier population control, but a less energetic and weaker population in general, as well as a more subservient one. To substantiate this, you need to look no further than the population growth rate between the developed nations and those we call the Third World. The less modern processed foods they consume, the better their fertility is, which is why these countries become more populous faster. Yes, there are many factors to it: education, desire, economics, and a general want. But in the base, I believe these other factors are secondary to the root causes. Okay, I'm getting a little off track there for a bit, so let's bring this back. What else do we have going on? We've covered some local social engineering by divide and conquer, eugenics, population control, and some of the issues we are facing in the West as our will is being subverted. Let's look now at global food shortage and what is going on there. So firstly, we know land is being reclaimed under the guise of the green agenda. Areas of natural significance, or basically anywhere productive, is being called a protected natural area, even if you own it. Farmers are being hit worldwide with mandates limiting use of fertilizer and water, with excessive regulation adding unnecessary cost pressures and inflating the price of producing both vegetables and raising livestock, whilst reducing pasture used. In America, there is talk of inheritance tax on family-owned farms, causing land passed from one generation to the next to be reassessed in value at current market rates, and the land value growth being classed as capital gain on the new owner and being taxed. This has the effect of the new owner being forced to sell part of the land to cover the inheritance tax. At the same time, Bill Gates has been buying up farmland like there's no tomorrow, whilst furthering his stake in fake meat, plant-based meat products. Organisations like Monsanto lobby the government to force farmers and growers to use their seed, which is a single-use terminating seed, meaning the farmer can't save the seeds and must then pay for them in each new planting. The next phase in the destruction of the food chain is occurring now. You may hear some places have in recent months had to deal with avian flu outbreaks causing chickens to be culled en masse. And in the UK, they went as far as to begin to consider backyard chickens as possible carriers and culled some of them also. Now we are hearing just how bad it would be if foot and mouth disease were to get into our farming sector. Currently, there is an outbreak of the potentially devastating animal disease in Indonesia, but if you're looking for a plausible excuse to cull millions upon millions of animals worldwide, an outbreak of this would be the way to do it. Given this was also part of the stated Great Reset initiative and a move towards a plant-based diet, I believe we will see this take hold across the world. Here in New Zealand, as we know, our government failed to keep COVID out, and it will fail to keep this out too. They want as many crises all at once as possible to keep you off guard, and so that you fear for your own health to the point where you will not riot and throw the government out of power. The more crises at once there are, the more the population will not question the measures and laws enacted if the people are told that this is the way back to normality, even if it's a new normal. Across the world now, there have been many reports of meat packing plants and the like being destroyed. According to the City Journal, by spring of 2022, the lists of fires and other incidents had grown to include more than 90 events. Fires damaged meatpacking plants in Georgia, Illinois, and other states. Millions of chickens and turkeys were destroyed at dozens of farms within a single week. Airplanes crashed into 2 food production facilities, and so on. The Western Standard reports food shortages have been exacerbated by a string of fires, plane crashes and explosions. Nearly 24 food processing facilities across Canada and the US. The most recent happened on Thursday in Georgia when a small plane crashed shortly after takeoff into General Mills plant just east of Atlanta. 2 occupants of the plane were killed in the crash, as reported by the New York Post. The Gateway Pundit has released an updated list of more of these destructive events occurring throughout the world. The list released there is just America, and at the time of writing, more than 100 illustrate my point. I will read a few of these headlines for you. November of 2021, a fire destroyed a 75,000 square foot processing plant in Fayetteville. In April of 2021, a fire ignited inside the Smithfield Foods pork processing plant in Monmouth, Illinois. In July of 2021, a 3-alarm fire at Kellogg plant in Memphis. 170 emergency personnel responded to the call. Also in July, firefighters on Friday battled a large fire at the Tyson River Valley Ingredients plant in Huntsville, Alabama. In August, fire crews were called to the Patuck Meat Production Company on Ewing Road in Austell. In September of 2021, a fire at the JBS beef plant in Grand Island on Sunday night was forced to halt slaughter and fabrication lines. In October, a 5-alarm fire ripped through the Darigold butter production plant in Caldwell. In November, a woman is in custody following a fire at the Jared County Food Pantry. November 29th, 2021, a fire broke out around 5:30 p.m. at the Maid-Rite Steak Company meat processing plant. In December, Westside Food Processing Plant in San Antonio left with smoke damage after a fire. In January of this year, damage to a poultry processing plant on Hamilton's Mountain following an overnight fire. Also, firefighters worked for 12 hours to put out a fire at the Cargill Nutrina plant. And reading all of these is just nuts, so I'm going to stop and just list a few more of the places that were either full or part damaged, mostly by fires. Cherry Street in Winston-Salem, Wisconsin River Meats, Percy Farm in Stowe, Bonanza Meat Company, Scherer's Food Plants in Hermiston, Soybean Processing Plant and Biodiesel Plant, Milk Palmer at Best View Farm, Lincoln Premium Poultry in Fairmont, Scherer's Foods Plant in Hermiston, Nutrient Ag Solutions, Shadow Brook Farm and Dutch Girl Creamery, Walmart Warehouse Distribution Center, Nestle Food Plant in Arkansas, and a little over 5.5 million chickens were destroyed in Egg Farm in Buena Vista, Iowa. That was a very small part of the list and just of these destructive events. It's not just in the USA, also in May of this year a sausage factory in Essex burned to the ground, and of course it's happening here in New Zealand too. In Okiawa near Hara, a meat processing plant burned down, and in March of 2021 a meat byproducts plant in Tuakau on the Auckland-Waikato border also burned down. Another Southland in September of 2021 near Otago also burned. At this point, if you still think these are a coincidence, I believe you should recognize you have a strong normalcy bias and are in need of help. So, here we are. Halfway through 2022, supply chains are disrupted. A war in the Ukraine threatens to spill over into neighboring areas, and another may take place in the near future near Taiwan. China has openly said if the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visits Taiwan in person, China will respond forcefully, and even so, her plans are still in place to visit. At the time of recording this, that visit is supposed to take place today in the American region, so tomorrow for us. I do believe the onset of kinetic war is necessary for this decade-long restructuring and culling of population to occur, as it will take war, mass starvation, disease, poor sanitation causing more disease, mass civil unrest, riots, as well as regressive policies designed to make it harder to produce food to get anywhere near where they plan to be, with the dramatic reduction in population that has to take place to bring their plans to their zenith. This, along with economic depression to deprive you of your property and assets and to sow the seeds for more civil unrest, which is required to pass even yet more authoritarian laws and policies. Mark my words, people, this is heading to SHTF. A lot of preppers out there believe we cannot unring this bell that is tolling a death knell for the majority of humanity. We have indeed become overpopulated. Personally, I would like to see us come together and become a multi-planetary species. I believe we have the technology to do so currently. We also have the manpower. Ironically, our problem is globalization and regulation and centralization of power. To say this, many will argue, these are things that have allowed us to thrive and grow, but that's simply bullshit. Trade between countries is what allowed us to thrive, not globalization. All globalization has accomplished is to pit some nations against others, to portray a false economic disparity between countries' currency worth. I mean, who decided America's dollar should be worth more than that of China's or ours? This, I believe, is a major problem. I believe some cryptocurrency can solve this problem, and to a point, one world currency would be advantageous, as this would mean everybody's time is worth the same. But a one world government should not be aimed for nor instituted, nor should anyone control the supply of money. It would need to be fully and truly decentralized. Debt which is usury should once again be illegal. This is where we went wrong. We allowed them to make these laws only to facilitate a way for those at the top to step on those below. It creates conflict between the top rung of the system, and those on the top rung look down and see shitheads, and those on the bottom look up and see assholes. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against people who work hard and get ahead, but I'm against countries as a whole milking their populations. Anyway, let's not get too far down the rabbit hole. Suffice to say, I believe there is a way things could be better, but those leading now would need to give up their power. Power should not be centralized any more than a city. Countries can still exist, but with all local governance bodies should control their own supply. Housing, food, production and trade, we don't need and don't benefit from a larger and larger multinational organizational schemes and companies. There is a reason monopolies are not allowed, and yet the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund are almost a duopoly, controlling the world's money and indebting countless generations. Okay, and because I'm sure someone will ask whenever I refer to them or those in power, it would be reasonable to assume I mean the leaders and politicians, but the World Economic Forum and the United Nations laid a path towards depopulation, sustainable living and complete slavery. They have openly admitted to putting up and coming leaders through their training program, then boasting when they are elected. Our Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, is one who attended the Young Global Leaders Forum. To me, this unelected think tank of young global leaders, which takes upcoming politicians and indoctrinates them into the ideology of an agenda by the world's wealthiest and most influential, is the one world government effectively in progress already. And are things getting better for you or worse? This is from their website as they announced the 2022 class of upcoming global leaders. The Forum of Young Global Leaders was founded in 2005 by Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, to help shape future leaders who are equipped to both take responsibility for creating a more sustainable and inclusive world and to address its increasingly complex and interrelated challenges. Today there are over 1,400 members and alumni from more than 120 countries. Notable members include Prime Ministers Jacinda Ardern and Sana Marlin, President Carlos Alvarado Quesada of Costa Rica, entrepreneurs, I can't pronounce those names but they'll be listed there, peace activist Victor Oshin, and economist Esther Duflo. They then go in to list more than 100 names of leaders up and coming, those who run currently or will run businesses, countries, and pretty much everything else worth having influence over. This is the one world government at work, and no one elected them. But when they stand for election, the people are programmed by media, which is the fourth estate. Funding is endless and the opposition smeared, and the election is almost a foregone conclusion. Some of you might remember we didn't actually vote for Jacinda. Originally we voted to keep National with Bill English, but through MMP she was able to form a coalition as the other minor parties had been bought. If they had said in the beginning they would go with Labour, I doubt they would have gotten so many votes. We voted for National with New Zealand First's Winston Peters to keep him in line and stop them from privatising the health system. What we got was a country being sold off and sold out, debt for generations to come, excessive taxes to pay for it, huge inflation, COVID anyway, land grabs, copious excessive regulation straining the farming sectors, mandates for untested vaccinations, huge loss of freedom, a brewing racial divide centred upon race-based politics, co-governance, and a recession with hyperinflation to boot, leading into a depression. In a previous video, I have already covered the media and their inherently biased ways of operating, so I will not rehash that now. But you need to know that what is reported is specifically and often very scientifically designed to train your thoughts in a certain way. When they want to pass a new bill, it helps with public if the reason for that change is fresh. This is why false flag attacks are more common than you might believe. In our recent history, this was the disarming of the populace here in New Zealand. We had an unprecedented act of racial violence that was widely disseminated. It involved a mass shooting here in New Zealand, and it was capitalised on to enact strict gun control measures, including a full-scale buyback of arms. Now, whether or not you agree with this policy and how it was done is irrelevant here. What cannot be disputed is that without the attack occurring and without the media reporting, the manufactured social outcry and the many cycles of news that spun outward from its epicenter, the laws needed to be enacted to pass and process that piece of policy would have come up against considerable opposition and would likely have not passed nor been supported at all. And thus, we arrive at the crux of our situation. When the governments are controlled by a puppeteer group and are attacking the population and dismantling the system about you, leading you towards a pen that you have to pay for but will never own, and the media is telling you it's good for the planet, it's immoral to eat meat, when your children are being taught that they have to give preferential treatment to one race because of what happened lifetimes ago, when the whole world waits and wants to go to war and the resources are drying up because one country is refusing to play this rigged game any longer and others start agreeing with them, what do you think the crises that come out of all of this will allow your governments to pass, implement and enforce about you? When you start to starve, will you be willing to allow the government to control all of the food supply so you can receive the rations? Can you imagine the news cycles as they start to say there are too many people for us to sustainably manage our resources and world? When you're drafted to fight a war in which its point is a Pyrrhic victory, will you comply then too? The world is being primed and polarized. What we need to do is take back the power. Prepare now, take control of your own food, energy, and anything else that you can. If everyone grew their own food, it wouldn't matter that the supermarkets were empty. If you can generate your own power or live without it, you are not a slave to their system. If you abandon the fiat currency for trade and barter, you cannot be controlled by it. If you get rid of your debt as quickly as possible, you do not need to fear a financial collapse. If you can hunt or raise chickens, your protein will be supplied. If you have tradable skills, you can barter your time and knowledge for sustenance. The system is attacking you. Do not sit back and expect everything to be okay. You will need a bug out bag, a place to go to if you're compromised, a way to defend yourself and what you have. Some food supplies will do you well for a time, but being able to produce is always better than an exhaustible cache. Learn to work wood, stone, metal, learn to defend yourself and maybe make a bunker, and assemble groups of like-minded individuals. Shit is going to hit the fan, and it's happening faster than you recognize. We are the lobster in the pot. The lid is on, the gas is burning, and the water is starting to get hot. If you stay still, you will boil. Now that we have comprehensively covered the why, coming up I will try to make some videos on how. If you have enjoyed this video, please give me a like, comment, and tell me what you're seeing where you are and what you're doing about it. And share this video to anyone you think needs a rude awakening. And subscribe if you haven't already. The more subscribers we get, the more videos I can make. This has been a New Zealand Prepper video, and a long one at that. Just remember, failing to prepare is preparing to fail, and we must not fail. Stay safe and see you next time.